Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dugout Football Channel and welcome to episode 4 with a chat with. And I have been joined by one of the new boys of the Premier League this season. It is James from the Watford Way. How are you doing, James?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. We are the new boys, bounced straight back from relegation, of course. And yeah, really looking forward to chatting about the new season, all of our new signings as well. And as I'm sure you probably mentioned, Xisco as well. Obviously, Xisco coming in last season in the Watford manager merry-go-round. So yeah, really looking forward to it. And yeah, thanks for having me on, Doug. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, and you are always welcome as well. So one of the first questions I always ask my guests is your upcoming thoughts of the season. What are your upcoming thoughts?
So, I mean, it's quite a broad question. What I would say is, and when I've been asked this before, I would say is that my aim for this season is to essentially finish 17th or above. I'm not thinking let's finish top 10. I'm not thinking let's try and get Europa League football. Nothing like that. We were just a championship side. We were relegated from the Premier League. We've bounced back at the first time of asking. For me, I think the overall aim for this season is just to avoid relegation, and whether that is just by 1 point or whether we do have a fantastic season and finish in that top 10, we'll have to wait and see. But I think the signings we've brought in have been really good. We've not necessarily spent a lot of money. Obviously, the COVID pandemic has affected all clubs, so we've not really spent huge transfer fees like we did on Sarr. That was like 35-40 million we spent on Ismalia Sarr. So we've not kind of gone down that route. But what we've done is we've brought in some loan players. We've brought in a lot of young players from lower league clubs, and we have brought in a couple of free transfers, the likes of Josh King, Danny Rose, who obviously are really experienced Premier League players. So overall, I think we've got a decent squad. We should be able to stay up, fingers crossed. But yeah, overall, avoid relegation is the aim.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think when you are a newcomer into the Premier League, and as you say, you bounce straight back up. Yeah, the desire is to stay in the Premier League. Well, let's just go into the transfers in and out of Watford, and obviously the ins. One name stands out for me already is Emmanuel Dennis from Club Bruges. How happy are you with signing him?
I'm absolutely delighted with that. It came out of the blue, really, actually, when we signed him. And if you are, if you are a football fan, you might actually be able to remember. I think it was that a year and a half ago. He scored 2 goals against Real Madrid in the Champions League, and that game. If you go back and watch that game, that kind of illustrates what he's best at: running in behind. He can play in any of the front 3 positions. He mainly played as a striker for Club Bruges, but he can play in the right as maybe a backup to Sarr, for example, and he can play in the left flank as well. So really happy with that. The one thing I would say about him is that there's been a lot of reports of his attitude problems. There's been some reports about him making a fuss that he couldn't sit in the same seat on the club bus, for example. So I think with players like that, they're obviously very talented, but I think under Xisco, who's a really good manager, same with Danny Rose, really, who had problems at previous clubs. If you can get their attitudes right and get them playing for the team, then I think the quality of play we've brought in is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter Etebo from Stoke. That's a very interesting one because I think he's been a very good player for Stoke as well. Excited to see him.
Yeah, really excited to see him again. Another one out of the blue, and it looks like we might have brought him in to actually replace one of our players who may be leaving, and that would be Will Hughes. Now, Will Hughes, I'm sure you probably know who Will Hughes is quite a well-known player in England, but he's only got a year left on his contract. We've offered him a new deal. He's not accepted that new deal yet, and Peter Etebo has kind of been brought in from Stoke. Looks to be a replacement to me, but if Will Hughes does stay and Peter Etebo stays, I'm not complaining about competition. And he's one of them box-to-box players who isn't really a central defensive midfielder. He's not really a attacking midfielder, but what he can do is, and it's a little bit similar to Decore actually. Obviously, Decore now at Everton, but he's just a really big, strong physical presence in that midfield. Another Nigerian as well. So yeah, really good to see. And yeah, I'm actually really happy with that signing as well.
Yeah, definitely. And A name to obviously Spurs and Newcastle fans, Danny Rose, which is a really interesting one. Happy with him?
Yeah, really happy with him. My only concern would be fitness. I don't know if you've seen some of the club's pre-season videos, but Danny Rose is kind of at the back of the group whenever they're jogging around or stuff like that. He does look a little bit overweight, which is understandable because obviously he didn't play a lot of football at Tottenham under Jose Mourinho. But a few years ago, you could say Danny Rose was probably regarded as one of the best English left backs in the country, regularly playing Champions League football. We played for England, obviously, as well. So yeah, as you say, really, really happy with that. And, free transfer as well. I don't think the wages would be too high on that one either, as well. And we're actually in for Danny Rose. I think it was the season before we got relegated. We were in for Danny Rose, but it never really materialised then. But good to see him at Watford. And again, we're not too far from London, so in terms of him moving home or whatever, it's not really much of an issue either.
And also another free transfer signing was Ashley Fletcher, formerly of Middlesbrough, of course. So more firepower to add to already Deeney and Dennis.
Yeah, I saw someone say earlier that I think we've got 9 forwards at the club now. Troy Deeney, Josh King, Fletcher, Success, Gray, Dennis. Pedro. Wow. So there's a lot of players there. I wouldn't expect them all to stay, obviously. There's only one striker position. We played a 4-3-3 formation, so 2 wingers and a striker. So there's a lot of players there to compete for one position. But yeah, Ashley Fletcher again, never really hit the heights in the Premier League. He was obviously at Middlesbrough, didn't really From what I've seen of him, he like Emmanuel Dennis, he wasn't really prolific. But again, pacing behind, tall, strong. I think Andre Gray will be leaving. So, I don't expect Ashley Fletcher to be starting week in, week out. But on the other hand, he is still relatively young. I think he's only 25, 26 years old. So, again, I can't really say anything wrong about this deal. Again, the wages will be low. And to add him alongside the likes of Troy Deeney, Emmanuel Dennis, João Pedro, I don't think we'll be struggling to score goals this season, put it that way.
9 strikers, goodness me! I mean, I think obviously being a Liverpool fan, I think we would do with 9 strikers. Goodness me! So talking about the outs, obviously Craig Dawson obviously gone to West Ham, Ben Wilmot, Jerome Sinclair as well, and obviously another one, obviously formerly of Liverpool, just never really got going at Watford, did it, for Jerome Sinclair?
No, not really, and I don't know what his issue was. So we brought him in, obviously it's quite a high fee at the time. I think it was like £4 or £5 million, which at the time was quite a lot of money for Watford to spend on a young promising player. I think Liverpool let him go, expecting him to kind of shine at Watford and perform quite well. His one highlight at Watford probably was a really good goal he scored in the Carabao Cup, but unfortunately for him, that was it. And he's been shipped off to, I think, Belgium on a couple of loans. He's gone down to the lower leagues in England as well, and he just really hasn't shone. He's not really shown he can play at the level that Watford wants to be at. So for him, look, it's a shame, but I think, if he goes to another club and he can force his way back up the leagues, I think Jerome Sinclair, probably his level is a mid-table championship club. So I think for him, if he can get back to that level, I think that would be good for him.
And another one, I'm not even going to pronounce this name. Penaranta, is it Penaranta?
Yeah, Alberto Penaranda.
Yeah, I'm not even going to pronounce that name as well. But are you sad to see Dawson go, or was he on the periphery of heading out?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a funny one, because I think Craig Dawson, fantastic player. West Ham towards the end of last season, he was instrumental into kind of their rise into challenging for Champions League football. And it was just, I think for Watford fans, it was kind of a mixed bag. Like, half the fan base loved him and thought he could be a real asset at Watford, and the other half of the fan base didn't like him. because he kind of openly said that he wanted to leave and he wanted to play Premier League football. So I would have kept him in the Championship, but he was loaned to West Ham with the option for them to buy him on a permanent deal. That has happened. We got a decent fee for him. I think it was about £3 or £4 million. So not complaining about that. And he is getting on a bit as well. I think he's 31 years old as well. So we've brought in a lot of youngsters, and we've kind of shipped out, some players who were on the periphery, and to free up some space in the squad as well.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we've talked about the ins and outs. Do you expect any other transfer business in at Watford before the window closes?
It's a difficult question. We've been linked with Mario Lemina from Southampton, but I think that transfer will only go ahead if another midfielder leaves, either Will Hughes or Nathaniel Chalobah. As we've mentioned, I think we're pretty stocked up top in the striker department. Maybe right wing potentially. Obviously, Ismaila Sarr is a fantastic player, but if he got injured, or someone put in a big offer for him and we sold him, which fingers crossed doesn't happen, I'd like a little bit of backup in the area. But apart from that, I think fullback we're set with Danny Rose, Adam Messina. Right back, we've got Kiko Feminier, Jeremy Ngakia. And in goal, I'm sure you know the cycling GK, Ben Foster. We've got Daniel Bachman, Rob Elliott. So I think overall, actually, we're pretty well balanced. I would just like maybe one or two more experienced Premier League heads in there. Maybe 29, 30 who have playing time in the Premier League. But apart from that, really, I think if the transfer window was to end today, I'd probably rate it 7 out of 10. I've been quite happy with the business we've done so far.
So far, so good, which is always a good thing. Now we come on to your fixtures, and I have to say, the first 6 I thought were actually okay when I was looking at it. So it's Aston Villa at home to begin with, then it's Brighton away, Tottenham away, Wolves at home, Norwich City away, and Newcastle at home. So how many points do you think you could get out of those first 6?
At the first 6? Oh dear. I'll tell you what, it is a good start, and I do think there is opportunities for us to pick up points there. I'd like to think we'll beat Aston Villa on the first day at home. Xisco Munoz himself hasn't actually played in front of the Watford fans yet, so I think that in itself will spur the team on to play for the crowd. Thankfully, it is a home game first. How many points out of the first 6? So 18 possible. I reckon if we get 10 points, I would be really happy with that. 3 wins and a draw. Yeah,
that would be a very, very good start. It's the final 6 that I'm a little bit concerned about. Okay, so it's Brentford at home, then it's Man City away, Burnley at home, Crystal Palace away, Leicester City at home, and then Chelsea away. So you would be hopeful that by then you'll probably have survived by then. But yeah, how are you feeling about your final 6? Because that's not an easy run of fixtures.
No, it's not an easy run, and I think December as well. I think end of November into December, that's really tough as well. I think we play all the top 6, the so-called top 6 sides anyway in the Premier League during that period. So November, December, and that period towards the end of the season, really, really tough. As you say, I'd hope we have survived by then. I hope we'd won the league by then. But no, in all seriousness, last 6 fixtures. 5-6 points. If as I said, if we finish 17th or above, I'm happy. And yeah, it's always fun going to Chelsea away, stuff like that. So I'm not too fussed what the points total is, as long as we have survived.
Is there any games that you're looking forward to? Is there any games that you're like, oh, I really wish we don't play them? Because one team stands out in my mind is Manchester City. You hate playing Man City.
Yeah, we absolutely hate it. Every time Manchester City rolls around, I'm always expecting a 5-6, 7-0 defeat. I think if you look at all of our matches we played against Manchester City in the Premier League, I think the aggregate score for them is something like 35 goals scored, and we've only scored something like 3 or 4 goals. So yeah, it's it's not really good reading for Watford, but what I would say is, I actually think the squad we've got now is stronger than the season we were last in the Premier League. I think centre backs, especially with Francisco Sirielta, William Troost-Ekong, I think they're a much stronger centre back pairing than we had previously. So if we are to beat Man City in any season, hopefully this season is the one to do it, because I think overall the squad we've got is a lot more well balanced than the last time we played them.
Yeah, sorry, I have to bring up Manchester City here because obviously I am trying to forget the last time we played you at Vicarage Road, which was a very, very good win for you guys in the end, and I do believe a certain Ismalia Sarr gave us a bit of a torrid time of it. So my next question would be, what is a successful season for Watford?
So a successful season, obviously avoiding relegation. But I think if we look further than that, and if we want to aspire for more than that, I think obviously avoiding relegation is the key. But I think I think one of our strikers scoring over 10 goals would be nice. We've not really done that in recent history. Challenging for a cup maybe. Obviously, a few years ago we got to the FA Cup final, so a cup run would always be nice. But I think for Watford, it's all about Europa League football. And, I'm not expecting Watford to ever challenge for the Premier League. I'm not expecting Watford to ever get in the Champions League. But, that 7th, 8th spot in the Premier League is always up for grabs. I think they've introduced, haven't they? Is it called the UEFA Conference League that you can now qualify for?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a mini Europa League, basically. So I think if Watford could get to that would be an absolutely superb season. But bringing it back down to earth, I think avoiding relegation ultimately is a successful season for Watford.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the Europa Conference League because Tottenham are in that, and it's quite funny for them to be in it. So I've got some very, very difficult questions to ask. Are you confident in managing to keep one manager this season?
No, I think that the Watford board, what I'm trying to say, I think Xisco Munoz is a fantastic guy. I've never ever had a manager message me on Instagram DMs before, and Xisco has done that. So what I did is I messaged him. I said, "Hi Xisco, it's my birthday." Then he replied back saying, "Oh James, happy birthday." So I think that in himself, it's a credit to him that he gets the club so well. He loves the supporters. He's done so much for the supporters. He's sent out personalised messages and stuff like that. So it would be such a shame to see Xisco get sacked. But I just think with this Watford board and the way we operate, it would not surprise me to see him leave, unfortunately, especially at Christmas time when we got such a tough run. I think we played something like Chelsea, Man United, Man City, all in a row around November, December time. So I think that period will be key for Xisco and how he comes out of that. Where we are in the table, I think that's key to whether we change him or not. What I would say is I would urge the Watford board to keep Xisco even if we did get relegated. Obviously, I'm not a fortune teller, so I don't really know how the season is going to pan out. But I think they made a mistake letting Nigel Pearson go when he was at Watford.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see Xisco given a lot longer than some of our previous managers.
I absolutely agree with you. I think when you got rid of him, Pearson, I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. But obviously, you did go down. But obviously, Xisco comes in and he manages to get you back up, and that was that's job done as well. I do have a few questions from Twitter. Shane O'Donnell asks, "What do you think of your new signing, Dennis from Club Bruges?"
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, I'm really, really happy with that. Really, really young Nigerian. We've got a lot of actually really young Nigerian players at Watford. Peter Etebo, obviously Dennis, Tom Deli Bashiri. Odi Nagalo was Nigerian previously at Watford as well, so it's good to see that we've had Ismaila Sarr, not Nigerian but Senegalese. So we do have quite a large African cohort, if you will, at Watford. And, to our detriment, when the African Cup of Nations happen, all of them players will be off and we'll be left with a reduced squad. But as I said earlier, look, really, really happy with Emmanuel Dennis. And I do think he's going to have a really, really good season in the Premier League. And actually, João Pedro on the left, Sarr on the right, Dennis up front, that's a lot of pace. And I think a lot of defences would struggle to handle that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to ask the next question because it's from a Palace fan and they're asking, do you all still cry about Zaha winning the penalty in the playoff final? I'm not even going to ask that. We've got a question from Dominic Rich FC, who's a big Man City fan. Has anything been put in place to prevent Watford from getting battered by Man City this season?
Well, what I would say is, as I said earlier, we do have a better centre-back partnership. We got Francisco Siriota, who Chile fan is Chilean, and the Chile fans really, really do highly rate him. And William Chooster-Kong, again, another Nigerian who is a rock, really, really strong. Danny Rose on the left as well. So I actually think, maybe we won't be able to beat Man City, but I don't think it will be as humiliating as maybe previous encounters suggest. Maybe a 2-1, 3-1 loss, something like that. I could take that, but not a 9-0 because that was absolutely, that 9-0 was really, really tough to watch.
Yeah, it was. I actually remember being in Glasgow, going to a concert, and all my phone was beeping like mad. And every time it was a Man City goal, I was like, Can they just let Watford off the hook here? It's like, like 8. Like, it just went to I think it was 5-0 at half time, and then it went to 6, and then it went to 7 and 8.
I think the Premier League rules are if you forfeit a match, you lose 3-0 by default. So actually, Watford would have been better forfeiting the match rather than playing on and losing 9-0, which is quite funny to think about.
I know. We've also got some questions here. How good will Ismalia Sarr be this time? Because obviously we do know that you brought him in. Did take time to adapt to the Premier League, and obviously did tear us apart, as you would say. But do you think that experience will help him now?
Oh yeah, I think actually the experience of getting relegated, playing against championship defences. You might think that for a top-class player, it's easy playing against championship defences. But in actuality, the championship is even more physical than the Premier League. It's more brutal. The pitches are worse. So I think for Sarr, it's been a great experience for him. 3 years left in his contract. He's said he wants to stay at Watford for the rest of his contract. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that Sarr is our key player. I think that's clear to see. I think that you're lazy if you say Troy Deeney's our key player because he's getting on a bit now. Yeah. He's not been prolific. So Sarr is the key man, and I do think he'll get double digits this season in terms of goals and assists. And if he does that, if he does that and we stay up, then I would give him my blessing to go on to bigger and better things. I know your club Liverpool have been linked with Sarr. Quite a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him going to Liverpool. Good friends with Sadio Mane as well, isn't he? So that wouldn't surprise me at all. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think obviously we do have the African Cup of Nations, where obviously Mane, Sarr will probably be be away. Are you a bit worried that losing Sarr might derail your goals maybe?
I am. However, we do have the players there. Obviously losing your star player, for you losing Salah would be a massive blow. For us, it's the equivalent if Sarr went. It's a huge blow. All the play goes down him on that right hand side. So it would be a huge blow. But we've got Philip Zinchenko who can play there. Emmanuel Dennis, as I said, can play in any of them front three positions. João Pedro can fill in as well. So we do have the players there who can fill in, but they're just not quite at Sarr's level. So we do have the players, but it would be a big miss, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And the final question is, what do you think of the puzzle structure, which is obviously loaning and buying players from the two clubs that they own?
Yeah, so obviously Gino Pozzo, the owner of Watford, he owns Watford and he also owns Udinese over in Italy. So you'll find a lot of our transfer dealings, especially last year in the Championship when our finances were really, really bad. We managed to get in a lot of players on loan via Udinese, and that saved Watford a lot of money. It allowed us to bring in players who had played in the Serie A, so very, very experienced players.
Yeah.
And it's just, for me, it's just I think it's a good thing. I know other clubs kind of see it as cheating in a way, the fact that your owner owns two clubs, and that allows for transfers of players between the two clubs for essentially no money, because obviously all the money is essentially in the same pot with the owner. So I think for Watford it's really beneficial. I think it's similar to Chelsea in a sense that it's I know Chelsea it's not the same thing, but they loan out a lot of players, and for the Watford Udinese model to work, Watford really do need to be in the Premier League, because it's quite a difficult model to explain, because Udinese is a Serie A club, Watford is a Premier League club. You'll find a lot of Udinese players last season would not want to come to Watford because we were in the Championship, and a lot of Watford players wanted to go to Udinese because they're playing in the top flight of Italy. But now Watford got promoted. A lot of Udinese players are being linked back with Watford, because obviously Premier League, best league in the world, high profile league. So the relationship is back and forth. And for players who have struggled at Premier League level, you'll find that maybe they get loaned to Udinese for a season to play some football, and then come back to Watford the following season, and then we reassess them to see if they are at the level. So yeah, I think it's really beneficial, but I know it does frustrate a few Watford fans as well.
Yeah, definitely. But as we said, it is all smiles just now. We will see what happens when it comes, obviously, to May. James, it's been an absolute pleasure to get you on and talk all things Watford as well. And I'm pretty sure you'll be sending your heart out at the Aston Villa game on the Saturday. I'm pretty sure you'll be doing that as well. But where can we find you in the socials?
Yes, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Watford Way. And if you just search on in the YouTube search, The Watford Way, you'll find our YouTube channel as well. Match previews, match watch-alongs, match reviews, and all the transfer news as well. So you can find us at The Watford Way on pretty much every social media platform.
Absolutely, yeah. Go and follow James at all his socials. They will be in the description box down below. Watford fans, get in touch with us. Let us know how you are feeling for the upcoming Premier League season, and hopefully this time around you will be staying as a Premier League side as well. But until then, it is goodbye from both of us, and I will be back with another episode very, very soon. Take care. Bye bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye.